Hey, Gregori High School, Principal Penley here. I have some very exciting news for some of you athletes out there. We have been given the green light to start some sports. That's not just practice. We're talking about competition here. We all know that Gregori's the best, and we're going to show them. We have some sports that have been given the green light, and then some that might be given the green light in the future. But with that, there's a lot of information we need to cover to make sure that we do this safely and that we're able to do it in a way where we can continue to offer it because we're following the appropriate guidelines. So in order to do that, we need to know how we can do this as safely as possible and what guidelines and restrictions that we have as a school, as a district, and as a league and sections. So what we need to do is go have a conversation with Mr. Davis. Let's go find out some of these requirements and how we can get this done and get competing on that athletic field. Good luck, Jags. What sports have been given the green light?
Mr. Penley, the sports that have been given the green light are anybody in the purple-tiered sports, but not every purple-tiered sport is going to be starting as early as next week. The 4 sports that will be starting next week are cross-country, swimming, boys tennis, and girls golf.
What are the 4 color tiers, and how does this affect each sport and when they would be able to participate?
Well, the colored tiers are divided up into purple, red, orange, and yellow. And each colored tier is dependent upon the level of contact within that sport. So, if you get all the way to yellow, then you're probably in a sport that's got a tremendous amount of contact in it. And obviously, when you get into purple, it's the least amount of contact.
How are the 3 seasons structured for this spring, and what sports are able to participate in each season?
Okay. So basically, the athletic directors and principals of the Turlock Unified and Modesto City Schools all got together representing the CCAL, which is the league we play in, and we sat down and determined that we were going to divide all of our sports into 3 seasons of sport. Each one is going to be between 8 and 9 weeks long, and there's very little overlap between the sports. And basically, we've set it up in such a manner that you're going to have 3 to 4 weeks of practice, conditioning, weight training, whatever it is that you do to get ready for that particular sport. And then there'll be 5 weeks of league-only play. The sports have the choice of basically playing a 10-game schedule or 15-game schedule, and a lot of things go into it, basically, the logistics of it, transportation, all sorts of things. But our ultimate goal is to get all of our kids in some way, shape, or fashion back to it. In regards to how they're divided up, I can tell you that the first season, which I've already alluded to you, which starts next week, is cross-country, swimming, boys tennis, and girls golf. So when we get into the second season, we have football, we have volleyball, we have girls tennis, and boys golf. And then when we finally get to the third season of sport, that's where you're going to find football, soccer, baseball, softball, track, water polo, all of those sports that were either a spring sport to begin with or a sport that is in the high contact area with a high tiered color. Football is currently a orange sport, and they are starting, I believe, on February 22nd. But again, that is a lot of that is based on where we are from a county point of view, district point of view, and that kind of thing. There's a lot of data that has to be analyzed. The section has set a very hard, fast rule that by the time we get to April 17th, the entire football season must be done. So we had to build the schedule for football backwards from April 17th, and that's why we got to the point of a 9-week season beginning on February 22nd. Volleyball is also an orange sport and also would start, I believe, at the end of February. Baseball and softball are currently red, which means that, again, once it hits the red tier, baseball and softball will be given the green light. Then you obviously alluded to track earlier. Basketball, wrestling, those are both yellow sports. Obviously, unless something happens at the state level or unless we see a dramatic change in the numbers for COVID and the hospital beds, et cetera, that we have to look at before they could move into that colored tier and begin, a lot of things have to happen that are very much out of our control.
How is an athlete cleared to participate?
Right now, we need our athletes to get onto the Sportsnet website, and that information is located on Schoology, on the Booster webpage, on the Gregori webpage. Go on to sportsnet.com, choose Gregori, create your profile if you haven't already done so. Put all the necessary information in there. Get your physical. Take care of that. Get it uploaded. And then the coaches, when they start having meetings, will be creating rosters, which we will then verify that you guys have done everything that you have to do as an athlete to be cleared to play sports. And so that's kind of where we are. Just a caveat to that, we have received permission. If you are currently academically ineligible, meaning that you have below a 2.0 or you have more than one F on your recent report card, we are allowing you to practice only. And this is a district policy that was recently approved, but that you cannot play in games unless you are academically eligible. So you could come out and participate practice-wise, but if you are not academically eligible by the time we're playing contests in whatever sport you're coming out for, you will not be able to play in those contests.
Will athletes be required to wear a mask at all times?
Yes, they will. The only time the mask can be removed is as a safety precaution. If somebody's having some kind of attack or a panic attack or something of that nature, then they can remove the mask, walk away, stay social distance, regroup themselves, but then they have to put it back on. Okay, it's not something that we want them to leave off, and that includes when they're playing pretty much any sport at this point. All sports are being told that a mask is to be worn 100% of the time, either during practice or conditioning or team meetings or whatever it is that you're doing. And all social distancing rules and regulations must be followed.
Will athletes have access to communal water like drinking fountains, watering troughs, or large watering jugs?
We are asking that all of the athletes either provide for themselves or eventually we will be providing that for you. Our districts have been kind enough to hopefully provide for us probably what amounts to be 1,000 water bottles that we will be giving to each athlete, putting their name on it, and that is what we're going to be asking them to carry around. We will most likely be providing water jugs, but only as an opportunity for them to fill up their water when they're at their athletic event. We don't want them to be sharing water out of the same bottle. Again, social distancing, safety requirements, etc.
Once the season starts, what if an athlete has some COVID symptoms? What should they do, or what should the parent do?
They should immediately report it to their respective coach, not come to practice or the game, notify their coach, and unfortunately, that's part of what we're dealing with right now. But it is something that we're very, very serious about. We want them to self-report if they know, and obviously the coaches are going to be doing their self-evaluation, or their not self-evaluation, their evaluation of their athletes every day, where they have to ask, how do you feel? Possibly take a temperature with the laser temperature gauge, and there's all these other precautions that are in place to make sure our athletes are safe.
Under the current guidelines, are parents or guardians allowed to come to practice or the competitions?
Currently, that answer is no. So in other words, if we are practicing or at games, mom and dad, we having you guys stand around and watch these practices or watch the games currently, right now the answer is no. We're hoping to get more information as we expand upon the season in front of us, and hopefully we will be told that maybe we're going to be allowing 2 family members in per athlete to watch or not participate, but be a part of the process. So right now the answer is no, but we will let you know if that information changes.
If an athlete plays multiple sports, is there a quarantine period between the seasons?
There is. Currently in our district, we have a 10-day quarantine period. So that means if an athlete currently playing boys tennis finishes up their season and wants to jump into a second season sport, whatever that may be, they have to quarantine for 10 days before they would be allowed to come out for that sport. And the coaches are all going to be working with those athletes. They know that they have to give them the opportunity to come out when they're able to do so once they finish the 10-day quarantine.
Will athletes have access to the locker room, or will they need to come to campus ready to practice?
Currently, the locker rooms are not accessible to our athletes. However, once we have students back on campus, not just the hubs, but literally if we do go to a hybrid at some point in the next couple months where we have students back on campus, then my understanding is that will change and that they will have access to the locker rooms.
Are there any safety precautions that parents can do to assist from home?
Just hopefully continue to encourage and support these guidelines with both the coaches and the athletes, and as well as your son or daughter. please understand that this is not what any of us want to be doing at this point. It's just something that we are being asked to do, or almost being forced to do, if we want to come back and have any kind of semblance of an athletic season this year. It's not ideal. It's not perfect. It's just what we're dealing with. And we hope that everybody is supportive of that and understands what it is we're trying to do. And also, as parents, as a precaution, if you feel like your son or daughter may have been exposed, but you're not sure, at this point, you're not sure. And if you want to call that coach and say, hey, it's just a precaution, I'm going to keep my son or daughter home just to make sure. And if that's what you feel like doing, please always err on the side of caution. We have no problem with you guys doing that. We're not looking at this upcoming season. And we're saying this to our coaches, and I'll be saying this to the coaches and the athletes. This is not, let's compete for a championship, blah, 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 blah. That's not what we're doing. We're coming back. We want to get back to normal. We want to start competing and playing and practicing. And at the end of the day, let's be safe. Let's make sure that everybody else is safe. Let's do what's right for everybody. And if that means self-reporting and staying home for a day or two, no one's going to hold that against you. And if they do, you let me know. And to our student athletes that, quite frankly, as a baseball coach of 30 years, I know how hard it is sometimes to get my baseball players to wash their uniforms. To our student athletes, both ladies and gentlemen, guys, when you're done with your event, go home, take off your uniform, wash it, clean it, sterilize it, and do that every single day. And I'd advise you to do that after practices as well. Do everything you can to be as safe as you possibly can be during the time and age that we're dealing with right now. Make sure that, don't use that as a reason. All of a sudden now you're not out there for 14 days and you're quarantined because of whatever the situation is. Take good care of the equipment that you're being given and the uniforms that you're being issued, and clean them and wash them and sterilize them. Do what you need to do on your end. Those of you guys who are wondering, the coaches have been asked before each season. So before the season starts, maybe this is difficult this week because we just found out what's going on. But the coaches will be meeting with not only their athletes, but are being asked to have parent meetings, so that mom and dad and grandma and grandpa, as well as the athletes and the coaches, are all on the same page as far as what we're doing and how we're coming back. So please plan on attending that meeting. Please plan on being a part of that. Learn what's going on. Educate yourself. Know that this is what we're all being asked to do, almost being forced to do, if we want to come back in some way, shape, or semblance. So, and that's going to be each season of sport. So everybody's going to come back in some way, shape, or fashion. And before we do that, here are the guidelines. Here's the schedule. Here's our expectations. Here's how we're going to run what we're running. And I'm going to try to be at as many of those meetings as I possibly can to answer any questions that maybe the head coach at that time might not feel comfortable about asking or answering. Yeah, I mean, guys, this is, we've been waiting for 10 months. Again, I'm speaking again to the athletes and all the athletes, but especially the spring athletes, guys. You guys just lost a season last year. Everybody played about 2 weeks, and then we got shut down. And now we have a chance to start again and to have some kind of season. It's not the kind that we want. It's kind of the hand that we're dealt. But again, I want you guys all to buy into the process, buy in to the idea that we need to do this stuff. We've got to take care of business. Please go onto Sportsnet. Start the process of getting cleared. Get cleared on Sportsnet. Schedule your physical. Schedule the part where you have a doctor check you out and make sure you're good to go. Don't wait to the last second knowing it's going to take 2 to 3 weeks if you don't make your appointment right now to get yourself in. And again, our seasons are 8, sometimes 9 weeks long. And the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be. And there's still going to be programs out there that cut. And, there might be big numbers, and we have to deal with that. We can't keep everybody in all sports. So understand, give yourself the best possible opportunity to be squared away and ready to go on the first day that we meet as a program in whatever respective sport that is. Okay? Be a part of the solution, guys.
If after watching this video and attending the individual sports meetings and parents still have questions, how then can a parent get in touch with you to ask their questions?
davis.ja at monet.k12.ca.us. Cell phone number 209-622-6301. Only call me if it's an emergency. Otherwise, I'd appreciate an email. I will always respond to your emails within 24 hours of you sending it, because I look at them every morning before I start my day.
Well, thank you to Mr. Davis for explaining all that for us. He's had a lot of meetings with a lot of different people to make sure that we can do this safely. So do your part in following the guidelines so we can make sure that we can continue to offer these as the seasons go on and different color tiers come available. We want to make sure that other sports get to do, because we know that the Jags are following the rules. Follow all the guidelines that have been given to you. This is just designed as a brief overview for athletes and parents. There will be individual meetings for each sport, because each sport has some differences. So those will be covered. So when you have those meetings and guidelines, please make sure that you follow those. We want to do everything right so that no one gets in trouble and we have to cancel because people aren't following the rules. And we want to make sure that doesn't happen because we didn't properly inform you. So this, again, is just designed as a brief overview, but we're going to have specific information about each sport given to the parents and athletes so that we make sure that we do this safely. I'm so excited to see Jags compete again, and I hope to see you out on the playing field, and I really hope that we get spectators at some point. Jags, remember what Mr. Gregori used to say: I never expect more of you than I do of myself, but I got to tell you, I expect a lot of myself. Good luck out on that competition. Do us right. Make sure you follow those safety protocols, and good luck, and go Jags.